Hey guys, good morning. We're talking about hungering and thirsting after righteousness. It's one of the Beatitudes that Jesus preached on his Sermon on the Mount. And we're talking about this extreme desire today for righteousness. It should be almost, if I could use the word, an obsession. It should be something that we just are all consumed by, just to know the righteousness of Christ as we find it in our relationship with God. It should be an all-consuming thing. Now, if it's all-consuming and it's extreme, it's going to lead us to an extreme sort of a lifestyle. If you want to see how extremely strongly they understood the righteousness of God in the Old Testament, have a look at Joshua. After he took Jericho, there was a guy by the name of Achan who didn't understand the righteousness of God that much, and he wanted to do it his own way, and he couldn't trust God for anything more than he could see. And he stole stuff, not from the kingdom of the people, but the kingdom of God. He disobeyed God, only to be found out a little while later. And because Joshua's desire for the nation's righteousness and Joshua's desire for people to live righteous lifestyles, that man and his family had to die. You say, wow, that's pretty extreme. He just stole a little bit of stuff, and he probably needed it anyway. But the extreme desire for righteousness leads to an extreme way of life. Jesus said this. He says, if righteousness is such a big deal to you, if your eye offends you and offends your righteousness, pluck that thing out and throw it away. Or if your hand offends you, cut it off. It's better to enter the kingdom of God with one eye and one hand rather than enter it and not be complete in your righteousness, even if you're not complete in your body. It's just a picture of God's extreme desire for us to live extremely righteous lives. So we look at this picture, we look at, well, how extreme can it go? I guess for me, the most extreme example would have to be Jesus. You know, here he came and he paid the price for righteousness. There he did, he hung upon the cross and he died, and they killed this innocent man. Why? Because he wanted you and me to be able to be righteous before God. That's an extreme desire to help others to become righteous. So as we look at our righteousness, some of us may have just a taste of God and say, oh, that was nice, you know. It's nice to stand and worship on a Sunday morning and experience the beauty of that. But that's as far as it goes for some. But an extreme desire is a desire that goes into everyday life, into every aspect of everyday life. It's a life that seeks to honor God in all things, not because we're legalists, but because we love him. And when we love him, there will be no sacrifice too big for us to make on his behalf and for the cause of the righteousness of Christ in us. It's an extreme, extreme desire. If it was an extreme desire for Jesus, so extreme that it brought him to earth to die upon a cross, maybe it should be that much more extreme for us as well. I've got one last example. And when Elijah stood on the Mount Carmel, and he challenged all the prophets of Baal to that competition. That was a competition to see who God really was and to see who the righteous God was. And Elijah won that competition hands down because his God was so righteous, so holy, could not look upon sin, and defeated the prophets of Baal coming out of fire out of heaven. And that's God. He is holy, people. And because he's holy, a couple of things. We don't want to mess with him, but we need to take his values extremely, extremely intentionally. So let's up our game in the extreme desire to have the righteousness of Christ, in an extreme desire to know him better, not because we have to, but because we want to, not because we're a bunch of law keepers, but because we love him with all of our hearts. Man, that's a big call. I hope we can live up to it. Have a great day. Bye.